Alibaba spent years giving away some of its most powerful AI technology. Developers could download Qwen models, modify them, run them on their own servers, and build businesses without paying Alibaba every time the model answered a question. Now Alibaba is preparing to change the deal. According to Reuters, the company plans to require some of the largest commercial users of its next Qwen model to share part of the revenue they generate from it. The model itself can still be widely available. Small developers can still experiment. Companies can still deploy the technology outside Alibaba Cloud. But once somebody builds a sufficiently large business on top of Qwen, Alibaba wants a piece of the economics. It sounds contradictory. Why give away an expensive AI model and then wait until someone else becomes successful before charging them? Because Alibaba may have found a way to turn OpenAI into one enormous customer acquisition machine. For most of the AI boom, the business models looked relatively simple. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google developed powerful closed models and charged customers for access through subscriptions or APIs. Every time a developer sent tokens through the service, the model provider could collect revenue. Open models work differently. Alibaba allowed developers to download many Qwen models and operate them themselves. Once downloaded, the company might buy computing infrastructure from anyone. It could run Qwen on Alibaba Cloud, Amazon Web Services, its own servers, or another provider entirely. That freedom helped Qwen spread rapidly because developers hate being trapped. If a company builds its customer service platform entirely around one closed API, switching providers later can be expensive. Prices can change. Usage policies can change. Access can be restricted. A downloadable model gives the company more control. Alibaba was effectively saying, take the technology first and decide how to pay us later. That strategy becomes more interesting with Qwen 3.8 Max. Alibaba unveiled the model this week with 2.4 trillion total parameters. But instead of activating the entire model for every request, its mixture of experts architecture uses only around 95 billion parameters at a time. The idea is to offer enormous model capacity while keeping computing requirements lower than activating every parameter simultaneously. And Alibaba is not competing only on capability. It is competing on economics. Chinese AI companies have increasingly pushed the price of intelligence downward. DeepSeek's latest low-cost model has reinforced that pressure, while models from companies such as Moonshot have been offered at prices well below some leading American alternatives. When AI models become cheaper and closer in performance, something unusual happens. The model itself starts looking less like the final product and more like infrastructure. Think about Android. Google did not need to charge every smartphone manufacturer a large fee simply for access to the basic operating system. Making Android widely available helped create an ecosystem involving search, advertising, applications, cloud services, maps, payments, and billions of users. Alibaba may be attempting a similar strategy with Qwen. Give developers something valuable at very low cost. Let thousands of companies build products around it. Make Qwen familiar to engineers. Create software libraries, integrations, training resources, and operational knowledge around the model. Then monetize the businesses that become large enough to matter. Reuters reported that Alibaba is considering licensing terms similar to those introduced by Chinese AI startup Moonshot for its Kimi K3 model. Moonshot's license requires companies offering the model commercially and generating more than $20 million in annual sales to negotiate a commercial agreement. According to Reuters sources, Moonshot has sought revenue shares of up to 30% in some arrangements. Alibaba's exact percentage has not been finalized, but the principle matters more than the number. A startup generating $100,000 does not need to worry about paying Alibaba a major license fee. That removes friction at the moment when the startup is deciding which model to adopt. If the startup fails, Alibaba loses almost nothing beyond the cost of developing technology it was already producing. But imagine the startup becomes a $100 million company. Suddenly, Alibaba has helped create a large commercial business whose technical foundation depends on Qwen. That is when Alibaba gains leverage. It is almost the opposite of the traditional software subscription. Normally, a software provider charges every customer from the beginning. Alibaba could allow thousands of customers to pay nothing directly for the model, then concentrate monetization on the small percentage that become extremely valuable. This resembles venture capital without needing to buy equity in every startup. There is another reason this model is attractive: distribution. Alibaba is investing extraordinarily heavily in artificial intelligence. Earlier this year, the company said it expected to spend more than its previously announced 380 billion yuan, roughly $56 billion over 3 years on AI and cloud infrastructure. That amount of investment needs a business engine behind it. And signs of that engine are already appearing. Alibaba Cloud revenue grew 38% in its most recently reported quarter. AI products accounted for roughly 30% of external cloud revenue, and management said it expected that proportion to exceed 50% within a year. This is where free Qwen models can produce money even without licensing fees. A developer downloads Qwen. The model works. The company needs more GPUs. It needs storage. It needs databases. It needs networking. It needs model monitoring. It needs fine-tuning infrastructure. And Alibaba conveniently sells all of those things through Alibaba Cloud. The model can therefore behave like the free entrance to a much larger paid ecosystem. This is a classic cloud strategy. The most important product is not necessarily the thing that directly generates the highest margin. Sometimes the product exists to create demand for everything surrounding it. Amazon used cheap storage and computing to expand Oz. Microsoft uses software relationships to pull companies deeper into Azure. Alibaba can use Qwen to make its cloud infrastructure more attractive. But the new revenue-sharing strategy adds another layer. Alibaba could now make money when companies host Qwen on its cloud, and potentially make money when very large companies host Qwen somewhere else. That is a powerful change. However, it introduces a serious problem. Open-source culture works partly because developers expect freedom. Add too many commercial restrictions and the product becomes less open in practice, even if the weights remain downloadable. A startup choosing between two similar models may prefer the one with fewer licensing complications. Large companies are especially cautious. Before building critical infrastructure around a model, lawyers will examine whether future revenue triggers additional payments or negotiations. Alibaba therefore has to find a delicate balance. Charge too early and adoption slows. Charge too little and the enormous cost of model development becomes difficult to recover. The smartest version of the strategy charges only when the customer's success becomes large enough that switching away is more painful than paying Alibaba. This is why the $20 million threshold in Moonshot's model is strategically interesting. At zero revenue, a developer cares about cost and experimentation. At $20 million, that same developer cares about stability, support, performance, and continued access to future models. Alibaba could sell more than a license at that stage. It can offer deployment optimization, technical support, early access to future Qwen releases, custom versions, and cloud infrastructure. DigitalOcean CEO Paddy Srinivasan described this to Reuters as a familiar open-source freemium model. Companies pay not simply for the code, but for collaboration and better deployment. That means Alibaba's real product may eventually be the relationship surrounding Qwen. There is still a larger competitive question. OpenAI and Anthropic built powerful businesses by keeping their leading models closed. That gives them greater control over distribution, safety policies, pricing, and customer usage. Alibaba is choosing a more aggressive path. Instead of asking every developer to enter Alibaba's ecosystem before using Qwen, it allows the technology to escape into the market. Competitors can study it. Researchers can modify it. Cloud companies can host it. Startups can build on it. Normally, that would look like giving away your advantage. But if wide adoption turns Qwen into a standard, Alibaba gains something perhaps more valuable than control: dependency. The more software built around Qwen, the more developers learn its behavior. The more tools support it. The more enterprises test it. and the more expensive it becomes for the ecosystem to ignore the next Qwen release. This is how standards become businesses. The risk is that AI models may not remain differentiated for long enough. If DeepSeek, Moonshot, Meta, American startups, and future open model developers continually release alternatives, businesses may switch models easily. If that happens, Alibaba's licensing leverage disappears. Alibaba is betting on the opposite. It is betting that models will become cheaper, but ecosystems will become more valuable. That the winning company will not necessarily be the one charging the highest price for intelligence. It may be the company whose intelligence becomes embedded in the largest number of businesses. For years, the AI industry asked a simple question: which company has the smartest model? Alibaba's new strategy suggests the next question may be more important. Who gets paid when everyone else builds businesses on top of it?